Here we go. Give people a few seconds to dial in, and we'll see if we can get this horse out the barn. Today's talk, well, conversation, will be about what the jury does next. Welcome to Sapphire Ridge News. And we will get started in just a few minutes. So the first thing the jury does is the jury votes on a four-person. Then next, what they do is they do what's called poll the jury, which means the four-person goes person by person and asks them guilty, not guilty. Once they get that done, then they go through and they ask each person that's what evidence they would like to see. And it would be really sweet if juror 56 was the four-person, because juror 56 sent a letter to the judge saying they could not be no, they didn't say unbiased. It was like they were saying they would be biased against the decision, which I took to mean that they would be biased against the state. And juror 56 was not kicked off the jury. So that's interesting. But I think, and then the next thing after they, like I said, after they vote on the four-person, then they poll the jury to see, where each person stands, whether guilty or not guilty. And then they go and ask about who would like to see what evidence. And my view from being on a jury, if I had a prosecutor pace back and forth during closing arguments and yell and scream at me, I would be totally against that prosecutor. I would be totally disrespected. And no matter what they said from the time they started yelling and screaming, I would be, nope, you're done. But that's just me. It's interesting that this has gone on for 165 days. We're on day 166, and it's finally to the jury. And it's up to the jury just to decide whether they believe each witness, whether they believe the state. Is totally up to the jury now. I don't think we're going to get a decision today, but I think it'll be done by the end of the day tomorrow, because they want to go home for Thanksgiving and have this all behind them. And I just don't see where it bodes well for the state, what they did in closing yesterday. You know, she started out her closing being so angry because she was rightly accused for using rap lyrics against black defendants, and said that she was not against black defendants, that she was not using music, their rap lyrics against them, then turned around and pointed out rap lyrics, you know, that talked about murder and this and that, and was yelling and screaming at them, and, you know, yelling and screaming at them, saying, well, it had the charges listed up on a PowerPoint, and she was yelling, guilty, guilty, guilty. That's going to go against her. At least if I was on the jury, and I've been on juries before, that would turn me off. I know other people in Cat Not Williams chat, shout out to Cat Not Williams, you know, people are generally turned off by being lectured to. It's one thing to be passionate and to discuss things and, you know, raise your voice a little bit as you point out your inflections, you know, or you have inflections towards your point of view. But when you stand there for 15 or 20 minutes, yesterday it was 2 hours, she was yelling and screaming at the jury for 2 hours. That's a turnoff. Most people are turned off by being lectured to. They don't like that. And the fact that she's sat there, and especially smug or Love, and her being smug and smiling in approval as Hilton was yelling and screaming at the jury yesterday, that would be a total turnoff to most people. I don't understand how the state thinks that, it's okay. We can yell, we can scream, we can do whatever the fuck we want. Nobody gets in our way. And it's wrong. It is totally wrong. The jury should not be disrespected. See, the way that Max and Doug put on their case, saying, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and listing their point of view and saying, we believe you should find not guilty. That's totally different from standing in front of a demonstrative and saying, guilty, guilty, guilty. She came across as rude, angry, hateful. Them were not words that I liked. Them were not words that I like to use. She used the N word like it was an everyday occurrence in her life. And it's not okay. The jury is not okay with this. I just have a gut feeling. That doesn't mean that they're going to come back with their decision today. Glasses. But it does mean if you disrespect the jury, it's going to come back to bite you. And I can't see where the jury would, after being lectured to by Hilton and yelled at and screamed at, where they're going to come back for the state. I just don't see it. I honestly don't see it. I just don't see where this is going to come out good for the state. Just don't see it happening. Just, and, you know, the state, even today, after the jury was given their charge, the state was not prepared and didn't have all the evidence ready. And they were discussing which demonstratives should be sent back. None of them. A demonstrative is not evidence. A demonstrative is, wrong way. A demonstrative is the prosecutor's or the defense attorney's point of view. It's not evidence. The attorney's arguments are not evidence. Their opening and closing statements are not evidence. The demonstratives means like PowerPoints and stuff like that, are not evidence. It's just not okay for them to be sent back. It's just not okay. And here we are. We sit on verdict watch, which I will leave the stream open and we'll give people time to chime in. It's just not okay the way that the state has disrespected the jury. We're talking about 166 days. And here's another thing we'll talk about. Okay, the juries get paid $25 a day, but they don't get paid until after they come back with a decision. So they've been on jury duty away from their jobs for 166 days and they get $25 a day, but not until the verdict is reached. And then the county will cut them a check and mail it to them. Yep. Jurors should get paid at least minimum wage. You know, the reason why it's $25 a day is because their meals are provided while they're at court. But still, that's woefully inadequate. It's not $25 a day. Okay, let's do some math here. So let's see. That's $500 a month. Is your job, does any job in America pay $500 a month? That's $100 a week. And I just don't see where that is an okay price. You know, $25 a day would have been affordable 50 years ago. Welcome. State where you're from so I can get an idea of how far we're covering. But this is just bizarre. This whole case is bizarre. The whole case is a dumpster fire. Has been from day one. On day number one, during opening statement from Miss Love, there was a motion for mistrial on day number one. Since then, there have been, I think it's 54 motions for mistrial. There's numerous reversible error, which if it's unfortunate that if either of these two are found guilty, that it will stand on appeal, but it will take years to appeal this. Okay. Doug Weinstein said that it will take a year for the transcript of the trial to be made. And then when the appellate lawyer rather, will have to pay 6 figures to get the trial transcript. Now, we here on YouTube that do news reports and commentary, we are basically citizen journalists. And I appreciate that YouTube allows me to come on and give my point of view. And whether it's conservative politics or lawfare or current events, I'm allowed to state my point of view. I have to sometimes watch how I word things, but I'm still being allowed to state what I believe. And that's important because without free speech, you don't have nothing. Look at what's happening in the United Kingdom right now. In the United Kingdom right now, free speech is dead. Why is that? Because they just ruled that if you look at propaganda, that they can put you in jail for 5 years for just looking at propaganda. Not saying that you believe that propaganda, just looking at it. That's crazy. That is beyond crazy. That they would just say, oh, well, screw free speech. You look at propaganda, we're going to punish you for it. That's crazy. That's beyond crazy. Some of the other cases that I'm going to follow is the Moscow, Idaho college murders and the Judge Mullins case in Kentucky. That I need to do a live stream on all by itself, because it's just, that's a bizarre case. That is a bizarre case. I'll tell you a little bit about it while we're waiting on the jury here. Sheriff and Judge Mullins were at lunch together. They started discussing a topic. The judge says, would you be more comfortable if we did this in my office? Let me check something here. Yeah, that's front camera. Okay. So they went to his office to discuss whatever it was they were talking about. The sheriff gets in the judge's chambers and his phone won't work. His phone won't dial, and he has to get a hold of his teenage daughter. So he asks the judge, he says, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of my daughter, but my phone's not working. Can I use your phone? The judge says, sure, hands him the phone. The sheriff dials his daughter's number. Okay. His daughter's contact info, now this is his teenage daughter, came up on the judge's phone as saved. The sheriff didn't get triggered. But when the daughter answered the phone, something she said triggered the sheriff. He dropped the phone, pulled out his service weapon, and unalived the judge. Put 6 rounds in him. Now, there's no audio in the judge's chambers, only video. But there are several things going on that relate to that judge's chambers. And excuse me, I did a video on my thoughts and my comments about what I think is going on. What I think is going on is that there is some kind of connection between the sheriff's teenage daughter and the 55-year-old judge. Because, and the reason why I say that is because the sheriff did not get triggered until the daughter answered the phone. The daughter seemingly thinks that the judge is calling her. So something she says when she answers the phone caused the judge to toss, or the sheriff rather, to toss down the phone and pull his service weapon and do what he did. A couple of interesting things here. The judge, well, not the judge, in this judge's chambers, there's been an SA ring going on. The sheriff's deputy is in jail for essaying several female inmates in that judge's chambers. And you're telling me that all that is going on in that judge's chambers and that judge doesn't know what was going on? That I don't believe for a second. And the one incident, the deputy, Ard, this female inmate, ripped her clothes off of her, drug her through the courthouse with no clothes on, threw her in jail. Before he drug her through the courthouse, he took her uh, monitoring, her ankle monitor off of her and threw her in a jail cell, took the ankle monitor, put it on the judge's bench and said, "She ran. I don't know where she is." When her case went to trial in the next county and she testified as to what happened, that judge that was overseeing that wept on the stand. And he looked at her, he said, "I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry." But, and he ruled in her favor, but where did she get her dignity back? You know, where did she get her name back? Because this deputy had her labeled as a fugitive. She was not a fugitive. She was an R victim in a jail cell having been abused by a deputy. That's just so disgusting. And it's not okay. In the uh, College, Idaho murder case, I don't like Koberger's defense attorney. I'm usually on the fence towards the defense attorney, but I can't stand her. It's not easy for me to say I can't stand someone. She complains all the time. She complained, got the case moved out of Moscow, Idaho, to a bigger city. The judge at the initial hearing, when the case got transferred to him, his name is Hippler, told them, do not file extensive motions. Do not do that. And I think he was following the YSL case because he told both attorneys, do not disrespect each other in my courtroom. You won't like what happens. So she filed 13 motions to suppress. 13. She wants every piece of evidence suppressed. Not a piece here or a piece there. Everything. She wants everything suppressed. And I don't think that's going to happen. He already ruled. And while we're waiting on verdict watch, I can look up murder updates. That's not what I want. Six key updates. And here we can look at this. One of the girls that was unalived her name is Kaylee Gonzalez. Her parents recently shared new details about how she was unalived. It says Brian Koberger, the suspect in the University of Idaho student murders, is due in court Friday. This as the parents of one of the victims releases new images of their daughter the family recently got from investigators. The parents of Kaylee Gonzalez sat down with ABC News for an exclusive interview sharing never before released images of her. Their 21-year-old daughter was one of the four that was brutally stabbed in off-campus housing in Moscow, Idaho. However, the family is still waiting on the full digital copy of Kaylee's phone from authorities. Her parents said, "We're just left in limbo," said Kaylee's dad, Steve. "These are the last moments of your child's life, and you're sitting here fighting with somebody who just doesn't care." They were able to collect some of Kaylee's belongings from the university over the summer, which raised concerns for them about how well possible evidence was processed, including a trash can from Kaylee's room that was full and appeared untouched. We opened it and there was little squeezy applesauce things like you would give a toddler. It did not appear to have been gone through, Kaylee's mom said. Police said that they had gathered more than 100 pieces of physical evidence from the scene, along with some 4,000 photos and 3D scans of the residence. Still, frustration is mounting for the family over what they consider a lack of communications and a rush to tear down the home on King Road. Christy, Kaylee's mom, describes for the first time how Kaylee was found. The side where Kaylee was up against the wall. And if you can imagine Kaylee in an upright sort of position, up in the corner, slumped. I mean, she was trapped, she described. The bed was the entire room. You could barely open the door without swiping the foot of the bed. And it was wall to wall. You know, the headboard was up against the wall. The home of King Road was torn down in the pre-dawn hours of December 28th. Prosecutors asked for Koberger's trial to be set for the summer of 2024. But that's just some of the things that have gone on. I watched that interview, and one of the things that Kaylee's dad said is that Brian Koberger's DNA was found on Kaylee's leg, not Kaylee's arm, and under her leg. He said, try arguing with that DNA. Let's read an update on Judge Mullins. Let's see. That's not how I want to do that. Let's go back there. I did not want you to do that, you stupid phone. Yeah. Okay. We're going to talk about now new details about the ex-sheriff's motive for killing Judge in the heat of passion. A former Kentucky sheriff was experiencing an extreme emotional disturbance when he allegedly fatally shot a judge, according to his attorney. Former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins, we'll refer to him as Sheriff Steins, 43, is facing first-degree murder charge for allegedly shooting and killing District Judge Kevin Mullins, 54, inside the Letcher County Courthouse on September 19th. Steins retired from the position following the deadly shooting. New details emerged in the case at a preliminary hearing last month. Yeah, that was wild. Jeremy Bartley, Steins' attorney, argued that Steins was experiencing an extreme emotional disturbance and claimed not enough evidence was presented to substantiate the murder charge. And I beg to differ. I think they've established probable cause for manslaughter first, but not murder, Bartley said. He claimed that the shooting was not planned and Steins was experiencing an emotional disturbance at the time. It was not something that was planned or occurred in the heat of passion, Bartley told People. For us, the highest level of culpability should be manslaughter based on the partial defense extreme emotional disturbance. Despite Bartley's objections, Chief Regional Judge Rupert Wilhoit decided there was enough evidence to send the case to a grand jury. Earlier in the hearing, more details emerged about the events leading up to the shooting. Kentucky State Police Detective Clayton Stamper, he was a real winner, testified that Steins and Mullins went out to lunch together along with several others earlier in the day on September 19th. Right here. I was told that Judge made a statement about Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told, Stamper said. This is the same Keystone cop that did not collect the daughter's cell phone, did not feel it was necessary at the time. Hold on, we're back. Just hold on a minute.
Still have to sort out those, the language of those last couple of overt acts that we highlighted earlier. So can we figure that out?
It's kind of like,
And do we otherwise have all of the evidence that's going to go out? The deputy can get with anybody's chambers. Okay. Okay, well, I mean, it goes from one court reporter to another, so do you want the court reporter to just walk up there and take possession of the evidence? Yeah. That's probably the best way to do it. We don't need a chain of custody form. It just is with the court reporter. Yes, we'll do that. All right, so we will recess for our delightful new court reporter to do that. Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
no, court reporter. Okay, back to what we were doing. Stamper said officers told him that prior to the shooting, Steins tried to call his daughter from inside Mullen's chambers. He then borrowed Mullen's phone and attempted to call her again. Stamper also said that Steins told officers, "They're trying to kidnap my wife and my kid," as he was taken into custody. Surveillance footage of the shooting was played in the courtroom. In the video, Mullins was hiding under his desk as Steins fired multiple shots. Steins then got closer to the judge and fired twice more at close range before leaving the chambers. 3 days prior to the shooting, Steins gave a deposition in a lawsuit where he is named as a defendant. The lawsuit filed in 2022 alleges that Steins failed to train one of his deputies properly. The woman who filed this suit, Sabrina Adkins, claims that the deputy, Ben Fields, forced her to engage in unwanted SAs in Mullen's chamber. This is what I was just talking about. The lawsuit does not indicate that Mullins had knowledge of the alleged incident. Ned Pillersdorf, the attorney handling the lawsuit, told People that Steins was acting odd during the deposition. My experience in Kentucky court, if you file a civil rights suit against a sheriff, they're usually gregarious and talkative. He was none of those. Dude, tense, evasive, most unfriendly. Pillersdorf told the outlet, "I don't think there was something," this is according to Newsweek, "I don't think there was something going on with him emotionally, and I did think, rather, that there was something going on with him emotionally. And 3 days later, this unbelievable shooting occurred. Is it related? Who knows?" Steins was first elected sheriff in 2018, then re-elected in 2022. Prior to that, he was a bailiff at the Letcher County Court District. After Steins retired, Billy Jones was sworn in as Letcher County Sheriff. Mullins was a judge in the 47th Judicial District. He was appointed in 2009 by former Governor Steve Beshear and elected to the position the following year. Hundreds of mourners gathered to honor Mullins at his funeral in September. His passion for people was his magic touch. He can't begin to count the number of lives. We can't begin to count the number of lives that he saved or improved, said State Supreme Court Judge Deborah Lambert. Our court family aches at his loss. Well, let's see if there's anything else. That was Newsweek. Questions, amount, and high-profile cases. That arraignment was bizarre. You have the lead detective on the stand, and he states that it's not his responsibility to take down witness statements. Well, he's the lead detective. He's supposed to make sure that witness statements are taken care of. He's supposed to make sure that proper evidence is collected. Oh, we're back again.
Amount of evidence they're going to basically reel it down here to this courtroom, and Taylor, our current court reporter, is going to take possession of it. So that'll happen in the next 10 minutes or so. All right, shout out to Miss Taylor.
Shout out to Miss Taylor.
And we're gonna get cards for that. I guess I can do that. Look in Odyssey and find out the date that's on the original re-indictment to put on this one. Yeah, when they signed. Or who got possession of the signed indictment? So that might still be, is it in here or is it still with, is it making its way downstairs? I know.
Let's change this.
State that the possession of possession of cocaine, this is so the jury will still be tasked with the other position, but if all Williams possess those items, so the purpose of one
Do what?
probabilities to put it down to the other possession thereof, and possession by possession, which track the language.
So we will bring them and have those two kind of buckets and then take one of that.
And for one, you can settle the Because a proposal is the same to the
Okay.
possession cocaine. Okay.
Much.
And the question. So with that, we would end up with what?
Yeah, they did it between 180A and 180, okay, 3A, right?
That's what it needs to be, you know, to make sure.
But then AA more than they say, 183, 187.
Yes, right.
Okay, yeah, that works.
And this data, this would be outlined in the discussion of the three charges, the language, to the state stop, for example, take 189 or 190, and then if you stop after, and so you should be the value of the discussion on top of that. That law, every and to the start on and then we obviously the 189 specifically, the commission gun, right? Okay. And then just take that in possession of the firearm, like, and cite that, cite the gun.
That works as long as, so the question on the floor for that is then, can an overact be modified to look at the lesser reasonable? Do we have an answer to that?
Address that with what we do have a
Can we use that? Which one?
So what's going on right now is there's been things that were left out of the jury instruction that have to be corrected. This is just crazy. Just crazy. All right. I will be right back. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Oh. 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 All right. We're back. What's the judge saying now?
So, tax, 76107, 59, that was 16, 5 days. And in that case, that situation, analogous to this, or there were certain questions for developments of 50%.
Okay, John Floyd, the RICO expert for the state, is up.
So, right, that was not and so here, specifically, we're looking at the class, we were looking at subset of that, as a reference to the specific, anything to do with that, which are circumstances, talk about non-parties.
Right.
So I think, based on for these at least, but I can't really find a problem with because we restrict a circumstance. So. It would seem that.
We're going to change now.
Or a number of events or added words, that would constitute an amendment. This, to the extent it's an amendment, is exclusively an amendment by deletion.
There.
And it is.
Hope everybody can hear okay.
Those aspects where Your Honor found after this evidence. So, no prejudice, defendant is favorable. I'm not aware of anything that says we have to cut beyond the scope of where you found there was a shortage. That it failed to evidence. And I don't think right now it's not a solution. Then there's, in other words, I don't think this is a draw maybe the groundwater scenario.
I would argue that the amendment is actually not favorable to us. That amendment by deletion actually broadens out that overt act. It does not work in our favor because you're removing the.
I agree, it doesn't work in the defense's favor to make it easier for the state to prove an overt act.
Yeah, and thus its conduct beyond that which would appear in the original grand jury indictment, and that amounts to constructive amendment.
Yeah. You know, I mean, even I'm reading Watchmaker right now, and part of it says the court did not change the terms of the crime with which Keating was charged, which I'm not changing the crime, but I'm changing the crime in the overt act. I think the safer thing to do is just to redact the indictment to remove those overt acts. I'm not convinced that it might not be error to do the way you propose. I think logically speaking, it sounds like it should make sense, but in the absence of something that makes it clear to me that it's not error, I would hate to borrow a term from one of y'all, get to, the 90, y'all haven't said it, but almost, I don't know, it was never mind. It was some kind of football field reference that I'm not gonna be able to do right, so just never mind. The 1 yard line, and then, yes, y'all probably
I
said
thought
2
you were
yard
going to say
line.
risk introducing further error into this.
No, I don't know that there is error in this case at all. I don't know.
Okay.
There is typically, there are no perfect trials, we know that. It'll be up to potentially some other court to determine that issue down the line. But right here today, I would hate to be on the now 1 yard line and do something that does cause an error that couldn't be corrected.
Not letting him do it.
Right. She's not going to let him do it.
She's not gonna allow it.
Be specific as to which act we're talking about.
Okay.
So with 183, there's no change in the nature of the crime. We're only talking about striking out those specific things as evidence.
Right.
I can't imagine any problem with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was talking more about the possession of a firearm by the whatever they were, 174, 175, 189, and 190. I'm just going to redact out completely. With regard to 183, 173 and 187. I think those are fine to have just gotten rid of the things that I directed a verdict in Mr. Kendrick's favor on.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, with regard to, I have 2 points.
Okay.
One is, when you're talking about, forgive me if I get the number exactly wrong, but 170, I think it's 174, 175,
Mm-hmm.
89, and 90.
Yes.
And so with those, the specter that's been raised is, to paraphrase the defense, the appearance of error for none currently exists, as we are at first inches.
Mm-hmm.
However, because of the way you have instructed the jury
Mm-hmm.
to handle the overlaps, if they find these, and if there's a defect, those, the public court can simply strike them from consideration.
Unless they're the only acts they find.
In which case, we know that as well.
All right.
Because they're gonna number it.
Understood, I'm just gonna redact them. Y'all will still have over 100 overt acts for them to evaluate.
State lost on that round.
All right, so I am redacting out to delete 174, 175, 189, and 190.
Right, so those are all 4 of the ones that were at issue that we talked about this morning.
So the state lost on that round. They tried to get another bite at the apple by leaving in the elements or the overt acts that she ruled on direct, that she direct verdict. She gave a direct verdict today that they should be out, and state said, no, you should leave them in. She just said, no.
3 and 187 still have those included.
This is
I
a
wouldn't accept
body.
that anymore.
I think the state may be looking at the B language and not the A language. That's perfect, Your Honor.
All right. All right, I think I can't do the rest of it until Ms. Percival comes back because she has the same document up and for some reason it's not letting me remove the highlights. All right, I see that our mainly physical evidence has arrived from Judge Glanville's court reporter's office. And Ms. Taylor, our current court reporter, will take possession of it. And do you all know what's going out and what's not? Because the jury has had this case for an hour and a half now, but they haven't been able to deliberate because they're awaiting the evidence. And that is why I told y'all for the last several weeks to make a determination about what evidence was gonna go out so that when they got the case, they could get the evidence to and begin deliberating. So I'm kind of ready for that to happen.
carts of evidence going back to the jury. Wow.
That looks like the sticky.
Holy
Holy
cow.
moly. Oh, this one has the bucket of bullets at the bottom. It's not giving me the full image of this overlay. It doesn't let me. I'll go over here. I got the bucket of bullets down here.
Why can't the state ever get their act together?
So starting at 173, which will be on page 41.
Look at Doug get an eye. Heck yeah, Doug.
So we have Doug Weinstein, the defense attorney, and Simone Hilton and Max Sharp observing the evidence stacked on the cart.
Can you imagine if off camera Love is just like waving one of the guns around?
Oh, goodness, people. Oh, excuse me. Goodness, people. So here we are on verdict watch. On verdict watch. The state is so slippery and so sly. Yeah, I started to say shy. They're not shy. Sly. Have to figure out. See, there's supposed to be a way that I can pull up the stream in here. We'll have to find out how to do that. Add an item. Camera slot. Oh shit. Discard changes. Oh. Oh. No drugs, pew-pews, or jewelry go back. So This is just crazy. They did not go through and sort what evidence could go back. This is just beyond crazy. This is just beyond crazy. Evidence bags were not resealed. Wow. That's a serious problem. That's a serious problem. Serious problem that the evidence bags were not resealed. When they open evidence during the trial, when they are done with it, that's supposed to be immediately resealed. And the date that it was sealed and everything is supposed to be on there. And they just brought in bags of evidence that had no seal on it. This is diabolical, yeah. All right. We're going to end the stream here. We'll be back on in a little bit. Take care now. Bye.